In a quiet wildlife rescue center tucked away from the noise of cities, an extraordinary story began, one that no one could have predicted. It started on a stormy night when rescuers received an urgent call from a forest ranger. A tigress had been found dead after falling into a ravine, and nearby, 3 tiny tiger cubs were crying helplessly. They were only a few days old, their eyes barely open, weak and cold, and completely dependent on a mother who would never return. The rescue team rushed the cubs to the center, knowing that without immediate care, their chances of survival were slim. Normally, tiger cubs need constant warmth, feeding, and grooming from their mother. Human caretakers can help, but something crucial is often missing: the emotional bond that gives newborn animals the will to survive. The team searched desperately for a lactating tigress or even a large cat that could accept the cubs, but there was none available. That's when an unexpected idea emerged. At the center lived a calm, gentle mixed-breed dog named Bella. She had been rescued months earlier and had recently given birth to a litter of puppies. Bella was known for her nurturing nature. She rarely barked, trusted humans easily, and showed remarkable patience with other animals. One of the caretakers, half jokingly and half desperately, suggested introducing the cubs to Bella. No one expected much. After all, these were tiger cubs, future apex predators, and Bella was just a dog. Still, with no other option left, they decided to try. The first meeting was tense. The cubs were placed in a safe enclosure near Bella. They were crying softly, searching for warmth. Bella noticed them immediately. She stood up, ears alert, and slowly approached. Everyone held their breath. Instead of showing fear or aggression, Bella lay down beside the enclosure and began whining softly, the same sound she made when comforting her own puppies. Carefully, under close supervision, the caretakers placed one cub near Bella. Something incredible happened. Bella gently sniffed the cub and then began licking it, just as she did with her puppies. The cub stopped crying almost instantly. Encouraged, the team introduced the other 2 cubs. Within minutes, all 3 were pressed against Bella's belly, finding warmth, comfort, and soon, milk. Against all expectations, Bella accepted the tiger cubs as her own. Days turned into weeks, and the bond only grew stronger. Bella nursed the cubs, cleaned them, and slept curled around them protectively. If anyone came too close, she would gently position herself between the cubs and the visitor, not aggressively, but with clear concern. The cubs, in turn, followed Bella everywhere. As they grew stronger, they began toddling behind her, mimicking her movements, playfully tugging at her tail and ears. Visitors and staff were amazed. A dog raising tiger cubs felt like something out of a fairy tale, yet it was happening right before their eyes. As months passed, the cubs grew rapidly. Their stripes became darker, their paws larger, and their playful wrestling more intense. Bella adapted in her own way. She corrected them gently when play became too rough, just as a mother would. She taught them patience, boundaries, and surprisingly, calm behavior. Instead of the aggressive tendencies often seen in young predators, these cubs showed unusual restraint and curiosity. But everyone knew this situation couldn't last forever. Tigers grow fast, and soon the cubs were too big to stay in the same enclosure with Bella full-time. The caretakers began the gradual process of transitioning them to a larger, more natural habitat within the sanctuary. This was necessary for their development and future. Still, separating them from Bella was heartbreaking. The first separation was difficult. Bella paced back and forth, whining softly. The cubs responded with low calls, pressing themselves against the fence whenever Bella was nearby. To ease the transition, the staff allowed daily supervised visits. Bella would sit near the enclosure, watching over them like a guardian, while the cubs played and explored their new space. Years passed. The cubs grew into full-grown tigers, powerful, majestic, and undeniably wild. Each one had a distinct personality. One was bold and adventurous, another cautious and observant, and the third gentle and surprisingly affectionate. They were healthy, strong, and well-adjusted, eventually becoming part of a protected breeding and conservation program. Bella, now older, had slowed down. Her muzzle turned gray, and her steps became measured. She spent most of her days resting in the shade, watching life move around her. Many new animals came to the sanctuary, but none shared the bond she once had with the tiger cubs. Then came the moment no one expected. One afternoon, during a routine transfer between enclosures, one of the tigers caught Bella's scent. He stopped abruptly, his ears perked up, and he let out a low, unfamiliar sound, not a roar, not a growl. The caretakers noticed his behavior and carefully allowed Bella to approach the outer fence of the tiger enclosure. As soon as Bella appeared, all 3 tigers reacted. They approached the fence slowly, calmly. Their massive bodies moved with surprising gentleness. One of them pressed his head against the barrier, right where Bella was standing. Bella, without hesitation, wagged her tail and sat down, looking up at them just as she used to when they were small. The air was silent. Then something incredible happened. One of the tigers let out a soft chuff, a friendly sound tigers make with those they trust. Another rolled onto his side, exposing his belly, a sign of comfort and recognition. Bella responded by lying down as well, relaxed and completely unafraid. It was clear, they remembered her. Despite years apart, despite the difference in size and species, the bond they had formed as infants had never faded. The caretakers watched in awe, many with tears in their eyes. This wasn't just recognition, it was connection, deeply rooted and undeniable. From that day on, Bella was allowed supervised visits near the tiger enclosure. The tigers would approach whenever she was there, calmer than usual, almost peaceful. Bella, in her quiet way, seemed content, like a mother seeing her children grown and thriving. This story spread quickly, not because it was shocking, but because it challenged everything people thought they knew about animals. It showed that love, care, and connection are not limited by species. That motherhood isn't just about biology, but about presence, patience, and compassion. Bella never knew she was raising tigers. To her, they were just babies who needed warmth and love. And the tigers, raised with gentleness instead of fear, grew into powerful creatures who still carried that early lesson within them. Years later, when Bella finally passed away peacefully, the sanctuary observed something unusual. The tigers were quieter that day. They stayed close together, less active than usual. No one could say for certain what they felt, but those who had witnessed the journey knew. Sometimes, the most unexpected bonds leave the deepest marks. And sometimes, a simple dog can change the lives of 3 tigers forever. As the years moved forward, the story of the dog and the 3 tigers did not end with a simple reunion at the fence. In many ways, that moment was only the beginning of a deeper, more complex chapter, one that revealed how early love can quietly shape a lifetime, even in the wildest of creatures. After the unexpected recognition between Bella and the grown tigers, the sanctuary staff began to notice subtle but consistent changes in the animals' behavior. The 3 tigers, usually confident and dominant within their territory, showed a rare softness whenever Bella was nearby. Their movements slowed, their breathing steadied, the sharp alertness in their eyes softened into something calmer, almost reflective. It was as if Bella's presence reminded them of a time before instincts, before territory and survival, back when warmth and safety were all that mattered. The caretakers, cautious but curious, consulted wildlife behavior experts. Many were skeptical at first. Conventional science often explains animal memory in practical terms: food sources, threats, territory. Emotional memory, especially across species, is still debated. Yet what was unfolding at the sanctuary couldn't be ignored. These tigers weren't reacting to Bella as a stranger or even as a familiar scent. They were reacting to her as family. Under strict supervision, controlled interaction sessions were designed. Bella was never allowed inside the enclosure, but the distance between her and the tigers was reduced in safe, measured ways. Each session followed the same pattern. Bella would approach calmly, sit or lie down, and wait. The tigers would appear one by one, not rushing, not aggressive. Sometimes they simply sat across from her, mirroring her posture. Other times they paced gently along the fence, emitting soft chuffs and low sounds rarely heard outside maternal or bonded relationships. One of the caretakers, who had been present the night the cubs were rescued, noticed something remarkable. The boldest tiger, the one who had always been first to explore, first to test boundaries, was now the most gentle around Bella. He would lower his head, blink slowly, and press his whiskers against the fence. These were signs of trust, even vulnerability. It was as if the strength he carried as an adult tiger made space for the memory of being small and protected. As weeks turned into months, Bella became an anchor of calm not only for the tigers but for the entire sanctuary. During stressful events, medical checkups, enclosure changes, or storms, the presence of Bella nearby noticeably reduced the taiga's agitation. Keepers began scheduling her visits strategically, recognizing that her quiet energy had a grounding effect. What made this even more extraordinary was Bella herself. She showed no confusion, no fear, no hesitation. She did not see predators capable of great harm. She saw the same souls she had once cleaned, fed, and comforted. Her behavior was consistent and maternal, even in her old age. She never barked at them, never retreated. She simply existed near them with trust that felt unshakable. This bond began to change the way the sanctuary approached animal care. Discussions emerged about emotional well-being, early nurturing, and cross-species empathy. While no one suggested that dogs should raise tiger cubs as a standard practice, the story raised important questions. How much of an animal's behavior is shaped by early emotional experiences? Can compassion at the beginning of life reduce fear and aggression later on? Visitors from around the world came not just to see the tigers, but to hear the story. Many expected something dramatic, danger, conflict, tension. Instead, they witnessed quiet moments. A dog lying peacefully in the shade. 3 massive tigers resting nearby, their presence powerful yet restrained. There was no spectacle, only harmony. As Bella aged further, her health began to decline. Her eyesight dimmed, her hearing weakened. The staff adjusted her care, ensuring she was comfortable and never stressed. They also noticed that on days Bella was too tired to visit the tigers, the animals behaved differently. They were not aggressive or distressed, but subdued. Less playful, more withdrawn. On one particular day, Bella was unable to leave her resting area. The keepers debated whether to bring something of hers, a blanket, a familiar scent, near the tiger enclosure. When they did, the reaction was immediate. The tigers approached the fence and lay down, one after another, facing the spot where the scent had been placed. They remained there for hours. This moment left a deep impression on everyone who saw it. It was no longer possible to dismiss the bond as coincidence or conditioning. Whatever Bella had given them in those first fragile weeks had embedded itself deeply, shaping how they experienced comfort, trust, and connection. When Bella passed away quietly in her sleep, the sanctuary did not announce it publicly at first. The staff needed time to process, to grieve, and to observe. That day, the tigers refused food. They paced less. They rested close together, occasionally letting out low, unfamiliar sounds. There was no violence, no agitation, just stillness. In the days that followed, the tigers gradually returned to their routines, but something had changed. They spent more time resting together, grooming one another, and engaging in calmer social behavior. It was as if the gentleness Bella had modeled all those years ago resurfaced in her absence. The sanctuary eventually shared Bella's story with the world, not as a viral sensation, but as a lesson. A reminder that strength and softness are not opposites. That nurture can leave an imprint as powerful as instinct. That love, when given freely and without expectation, can cross boundaries we believe are fixed. Bella was never trained to be extraordinary. She wasn't special by design. She was simply kind, patient, and present when 3 tiny lives needed her most. And in answering that need, she became part of something far greater than herself. Years later, new caretakers would hear the story and look at the 3 aging tigers with fresh eyes. They would notice how these animals, despite their size and power, carried a rare calm within them. How they responded differently to humans. How they seemed to understand restraint. And somewhere in that understanding lived the quiet legacy of a dog who once curled her body around 3 striped cubs on a cold night, never knowing she was shaping history. Because sometimes, the most unexpected beginnings lead to the most unforgettable endings.